Hey, what's up, guys? Coach Bobby here. Welcome back to my 5-part series, The 5 Steps to Greatness. All right, so step 1, to recap, was you have to want to be something, right? You have to want to be something. All right, so step 2 in this journey toward achieving greatness is that you have to believe you can be that something. You have to believe at your core, in your heart, deep down in your roots, that you can do something that you want to do. Right? And so that sounds easy and it sounds like it's a foregone conclusion, but more times than not, that is what derails us from achieving greatness. All right, so a quick story. Roger Bannister was the first man to run a sub 4-minute mile. Right? Many of you have heard this story. I've talked about it on a few videos. I've written about it. But in 1954, after scientists and researchers and doctors believed the human body was not capable of running a mile in under 4 minutes, Roger Bannister dispelled that myth and broke the 4-minute mile barrier. Right? So after years and years, and after research and doctors and scientists saying that it was impossible, physically impossible, to run a sub 4-minute mile, Roger Bannister broke the 4-minute mile. All right, so what does that mean? Well, the story goes, history tells us that shortly after, within a year or so, someone else broke the 4-minute mile. And then after that, someone else broke it. And then someone else broke it. And now it's commonplace. And in fact, the 4-minute mile is the standard for great middle distance runners. Right? If you can't run a 4-minute mile, then you're not considered a great middle distance runner. And in fact, high schoolers, great high school runners can run a sub 4-minute mile. So what that tells us is this, that without belief, it's very hard to do something. Right? If I tell you to solve a problem and tell you it's not solvable, you'll spend maybe 2 minutes trying to solve it and then give up. If I tell you that even though it's hard, you can solve it, you'll spend more time, right? So if we don't believe something is possible, then our efforts, although they may go on for a week or 2 or a month, eventually will give in. Because if the challenge is hard enough, as was the 4-minute mile, if the challenge is hard enough, then there's going to be some struggle. There's going to be some challenge. It's going to be hard at times. And so if we don't believe that it's possible deep down in our core, then at the first sign of challenge, we will quit, right? We will quit. So part of the reason people can't lose weight is that they've tried before and have failed, right? Several times and failed. And so deep down, they don't believe this new diet or this new program or this new fresh start is going to work. They say it's going to work. They think it might work. They hope and pray it might work. But deep down, they know it won't work. Like they know it's not going to work. It didn't work last year. It didn't work in 2015. It didn't work in 2012. It didn't work for Jan. It didn't work for Jason. And so deep down, they know it won't work. And so at the first sign of challenge, of difficulty, they quit, right? So step 2 is that you have to believe you can do it. You have to believe that unlike the previous attempts at this goal, you can do it. And again, I'll go back to my point from the first step, from the video in the first step, is that more times than not, and I'll go to my grave saying this, right? If you are physically and mentally able to achieve your goal, right, and you see people who have similar circumstances or worse than you are, who have achieved it, then it's one of 2 reasons. Either you don't want it, right, step 1, or you don't believe you can do it, step 2. Right? Now step 1 can mean you don't believe you deserve it, right? So in which case your subconscious doesn't want it, or it can mean that you don't want it bad enough, or that you don't believe it. So either you don't want it bad enough or you don't believe it. So step 1 was that you have to want to be something, right? And this step 2 is you have to believe you can do it, right? And so how do we do that? How do we do that? And I fall, I'm in this with you guys, right? Because what's great about me, trying to teach this 5-step process is that, number one, I've gone through it. I've gone through it with football, right? I went through it with school. I went through it as a finance executive, right? All 5 steps. And I went through it in my fitness journey, and I'm still going through it, right? And so I've been successful in several areas of my life going through these 5 steps. I didn't know there were the 5 steps until I sat down and kind of looked at it and asked other people in different professions and talked to people and saw and realized that they went through the same steps. I've made it in certain areas, but now I'm in an arena where I'm going through the steps, right? And I'm realizing after years of being frustrated, of thinking I wanted it, of thinking I believed in it, and understanding that these steps are real. These steps are integral and they're critical, and we have to face up to it. We have to go through the journey, through the steps in order to make it, right? And skipping, especially step 1 and 2, is going to derail our efforts. And so step 2, a belief that you can do it, is critical, even for me, right? So I want to be, as I said in step 1, I want to be a professional speaker. I want to use my fitness abilities. I want to use my experience and my skills and my knowledge in how to use fitness in every area of your life to be a inspiration and a motivation to people. But if my subconscious doesn't want it, as I talked about in step 1, then it's hard to do it, right? And if I don't believe that I can do it, like if at my heart I don't believe that I speak well enough, or that I look good enough, or that I know enough people, or have enough money, or have enough background, if I don't believe that I can do it or deserve to do it, then I won't do it. It's that simple, right? So step 1 is that I had to want it, right? You have to want it, right? To be it. Step 2 is you have to believe it. You have to believe you can do it. And in this day and age, right, in 2017, it's never been easier to believe it, right? We've never had more access to examples to lead us, to inspire us, to motivate us, right? There's somebody out there that is doing or has done what you want to do, right? Who is what you want to be, right? And oftentimes you can find several people who have done it with a larger deck stacked against them, right? With larger hurdles to overcome, right? With more pitfalls along the way, right? So belief in what you want to do, belief in the fact that you can do it has never been easier, right? The challenges are the same for everybody as they were 30 years ago. The difference is now you can log on YouTube or go on Instagram or Facebook and find somebody who's doing it and be inspired and motivated and learn what is necessary to get there, right? So enforcing and reinforcing and building your belief has never been easier, but the step is still the same. You have to believe it, right? You have to believe that you can run a 4-minute mile, right? And once somebody does it, right? Once Roger Bannister ran the 4-minute mile, everybody else who started a mile knew it was possible, right? Prior to them, trying to run a 4-minute mile wasn't even an option, right? No one even tried to run they tried to run fast, but trying to run 4 minutes when it was impossible was futile. But after Roger Bannister did it, everyone tried to run a 4-minute mile, right? Because they believed it was possible. So step 2 is that you have to believe that the goal you want, that the dream you want is attainable, that what you want to be is possible. All right? So step 2 is you have to believe that you can be what you want to be, right? That you can lose 20 pounds, that you can grow a business, you can be a business leader, you can be a lawyer, you can be president, whatever it is, you have to believe that you can do it. And there's no excuse anymore to not believe it, right? Once you establish from step 1 that you want to be 20 pounds lighter, for example, there's no excuse not to believe it, because you can find examples all over the place of people who have done it. All right? So step 2 is that you have to find a way to believe that you can do it. All right? So stay tuned for step 3.